Hi and welcome to the Wishing Shed. Today I'm going to show you how to put together this little sleeping fawn using the Wishing Shed Sleeping Fawn kit. So the first thing to do is take your pipe cleaner and measure out the spine and the head, bending it into shape and then just cutting it to length. And I'm just going to bend the very tip over on the nose, and then we bend the neck area up to match that on the stencil sheet, like so. So the next thing to do is to take some of the core wool, and we're going to start wrapping the body first. So this is the body area, this is the neck, and then you've got the head and the nose. So we're just going to slowly start wrapping quite tightly. And around the back. So we use the thick needle first and just a few stabs to keep the wool in place, and then we add another layer. So basically we're just going to keep adding layers of the core wool until we build up the body. And the thing to do is to keep checking with your stencil sheet for the size, so just making sure that we're keeping it, we don't go too large. You really don't need a lot of wool when you're making these little animals. And the same with the needles really. If you're doing a bigger piece or you want to do something quicker, then I use a clover pen with 3 needles in it. But when I'm doing these smaller animals, you really only need 2 needles, and that's a thick one and a finer one. I'm just going to wrap up the head. So when you come to the nose, we're going to leave that for now because they have really thin noses. So if you can just see, I'm leaving the pipe cleaner with no core wool on at all. So I'm wrapping the head and the neck. And again, they have really thin necks comparison to their bodies, so I'm not going to put too much core wool on. I'm just going to build that up a little bit more. And then this area on top of the head, I'm just going to build that up a little bit more as well. And also the lower section of the neck is a little bit thicker compared to the top section, so I'm just going to put a bit more wool around that. So we have our neck, head, and I'm just going to build up the body a bit more as well. So again, we need to keep checking with the stencil sheet, sort of the same size, and it fits into it nicely. So I need to build up this area a bit more and back. It's also important to remember that no 2 needle felt creations are ever the same. It's impossible when things are handmade to get them identical, so it really doesn't matter if your fawn's a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller, or a little bit of a different shape. So you don't have to needle felt the core wool too much because it really sticks quite well on its own. Also compare to the side view, there's a side view here, and you need to make sure that it fits in quite nicely to that. So that's the body and the head. So once you're happy with that shape, we're going to start adding the top coat. We're going to start adding the top colours now. So take your little bag of mixed wool, and we want the cream colour first, And we're just going to start felting it onto the underside of the fawn. You hardly need any, we're just going to build up bit by bit. So smooth it over with your fingers and then just needle felt it into place. We're going to use our needle just to carefully drag and tuck the wool in as well. As you're doing this, you'll notice that the body shape might shrink down a bit more, because the more you felt something, the smaller and more compact it gets. We want to wrap the neck with a little bit of white as well, so keeping it very thin. We don't want the neck to get much thicker, and we're just going to wrap the white around, keeping it smooth, and needle felting it on. And then wrapping up around the head. So I'm just going to wrap the nose now with some of the white carded wool, holding it in place with one hand, and I've only got a very sort of thin strip here, and I'm going around the end, smoothing it over with one finger, and then using the back of my nail to just smooth the wool around the nose, like so, and then poking a few times the end of the nose and across the top. And then we're just going to check that with the stencil sheet. I'm just going to build up this area a little bit more, because as it goes up towards the head, it gets thicker on the snout. So I'm just going to use a little bit more around there. I hope you can see I've left the core wool here and haven't put any of the pretty carded white over that, just literally under the belly and around the neck and just over the head and for the nose. So now we're going to cover the top part of the neck and the top part of the body with some of the golden brown from the mixed wool bag. So we're just going to tease some of the wool out. This is the golden brown. And we're going to lay it over top of the body, smooth it out a bit, and felt it into place. So I'm going to felt across the back as well. And we're going to felt some of the light golden brown about halfway down the neck, so on top of the neck and about halfway down. Just be careful not to add too much at this point. And just using the needle to sort of tuck it in as we go. So I'm just going to continue doing that for a minute and adding over the head. So I'm leaving the underside of the head and the neck completely white. I'm not worrying too much about the bumps at the minute. Like I say, we're going to be adding another colour in just a minute. And I'm going to leave the tip of the nose white as well, so just putting a little bit of the golden brown on the top section. So that's basically the golden brown added. So now we're going to apply on top of that some of this lovely reddy sort of fawny colour brown. And again, it's surprising when you're doing these little animals how little wool you need. And we're just going to again smooth that over. And we want some of the golden brown that we put on to show through as well, just so we've got a nice graduation in colour. I'm just going to felt that on. Going up the neck a little bit. And I'm going to leave again this beigey colour, golden brown, just showing, blending into the white. So we've got the white, golden brown, then the reddish brown. Just going to keep adding little bits at a time. See, I'm hardly using any there. It's just really adding little bits at a time. So there's the head coming together nicely. We've got a nice blend of colours. So once you've got your sort of top coat on, I'm just going to roll the neck, I'll just show it this way, roll and felt up the whole of the neck to help get that coat felted in. And then felting down behind the head a bit more. So we've got the head that sticks out, rolling and felting. I also, if I'm working on a larger piece, I will sort of felt little spirals all over, and it just helps get a really nice even felt. So let's just have a look where we are. So we've got our two top coats on. I'm just going to bend his head around. He's going to come around like this in a minute on his back leg. You should have the underside cream, and I've felted the browns pretty much all the way down on the back side, and I've left a little bit of cream showing under the neck. So the next thing we've got to do is make the leg. Using the other half of your pipe cleaner, bend it to match the leg shape on your stencil sheet as closely as you can, bending over the tip because that's got to be bent back on itself so that the wire doesn't poke through. Cutting that off, pinching together. So there's our little hoof we're going to cover in a minute. Just match it again, make sure it's okay. Good. And then using the black smooth wool, which is merino. I always use this for hooves, so I think it makes them look quite nice and smooth. So we're going to wrap round the end, hold as tightly as you can, wrap around the end. Use your finger to smooth the wool over, go back on itself. Tease the wool out a bit, wrap it as tightly as you can, smooth it round. So needle felt it just a little bit. and then wrap the other half up the leg. So what I'm going to do now is just use a little bit of, this is PVA glue mixed with a little bit of water, and I'm just going to smooth it around the wool on the hoof. And when this dries, it will be rock hard and it will be more secure. And there you go. You can see the hoof. Right, that's dry now. So using the cream carded wool, not the core wool, we're going to start about halfway down the leg, holding with one hand and wrapping as tightly as we can. Deer's legs are actually very thin, so don't want to use much wool. Tease it out when you are coming to the end and wrap it round tightly till it disappears. A few pokes. Wrap back up this way. A little bit more of the carded wool. And just going to wrap the bottom half of the leg just over the top part of the hoof. You can see there? Like so. Then we want to build up the top part of the leg a bit more, the thigh area. Doesn't matter what this bit's like too much at the minute at the top, because we're going to cover that later. I'm going to take some of the golden brown wool, just a little tiny bit, and we're going to wrap it around the bend in the back of the leg. I'm just going to reshape the leg a little bit now that it's covered in the wool, so bending the front part of the ankle down, like so, and just pinching the top bit around. I'm just going to position the leg onto the body, bend the head around just to make sure it's going to sit nicely on the leg where you want it to go, and then using your thick needle still, just felt the leg, the thigh area on to the body, making sure that it does rest on the ground. You don't want it too high up. And then for this to stay more securely in place and to make it look a bit more natural, we're going to make a separate thigh piece to go over that. So using the cream carded wool from the mixed wool bag, you want a piece about 2 inches long and 1 inch thick, 1 inch wide and not too thick. So I'm just going to roll up a flat shape and needle felt a sort of circle shape. You don't want it too big. I'm just going to felt them edges over a bit more. And then that's just going to cover over your thigh area. So we want to leave this bend visible here. So you want to tuck it just behind there and needle felt it onto the body. Felting all the way through. Just be a bit careful because obviously the pipe cleaner has wire in it, so just bear that in mind. You don't want to snap a needle. And then reshaping onto the body. Tucking it in. thing that looks a bit like that. So now we've got the leg on, we're just going to felt this bit into a bit more of an arch shape around the back. So using your thick needle, just going to felt that down. So now we've got to obviously blend this into the rest of the body. Use some of the light golden brown first, and we're just going to needle felt that on. I'm going to leave the edge of the inner thigh white so that it stands out a bit more, but the rest of it's got to be covered and blended. I'm just going to cover all the joins. Now I'm just going to add some of the reddish brown on top of the golden brown. Now we're going to make a little nose, and we're just going to take some of the black spongy wool, roll it around between your fingers, backwards and forwards. You can use a little bit of cocoa butter or something like that just to smooth it if you want to. And just, you want a little sort of oval leaf shape. And we're just going to hold it in place, needle felt the bottom point onto the front of the nose, and then folding it forwards like that. We're just going to needle felt the points together, and you can go around the edges a little bit if you want to, just to neaten it up. We're just tucking in the wool. I'm just going to make a bit of white detail where the eyes are going to go. So I'm just going to take some of the white cream carded wool and just felt that on a little bit each side. And then to get the other side even, if you use the line of your needle, just sort of position roughly the same place. Using a little bit of the cream and looking at it head on. I'm looking at it head on, so just turn it around and we can see where to position it so that it's the same. Just realised I forgot to do the mouth, so I'm just going to take some of the black spongy wool again, sort of tease it out so that it becomes quite thin, and then just sort of twist it so you get a sort of cotton-like thin piece of wool, and you can use that to draw on a little mouth shape. So just going to draw on a little mouth. Some scissors. And then I'm going to do the same thing to create the sleeping eyes. Use the black wool, roll it backwards and forwards until it becomes really thin. I'm just going to position it where I want it to go. And this is sometimes where I swap over now to the thinner needle. Trim the excess and tuck it in. And again, if you look at it head on, you'll be able to work out more evenly where you want the other one to go. Next we've got to make the ears, and we're just going to take 2 small amounts of the reddish brown wool, And using your fingers, if you fold over and felt into little sort of triangle shapes. So we don't want them too big. And you've got to leave some excess fibre at the bottom for them to felt onto the head. So I'm just going to make that a little bit more pointy. Use the needle to sort of drag the ends over. Lift and turn and felt the fibres back through on the other side and turn. You've got 2 ears, the same sort of size. Just use your fingers as well to help shape them. So, pull some of that, that's too much at the bottom. You don't want too much excess fibre at the bottom, otherwise it'll end up a bit of a bulge on top of the head. So we're just going to put a little bit of pink detail into each ear. Don't push it too far in or it will poke through the other side. We're going to trim the back of the ears in a minute anyway, but just, again, I'm using my fine needle now to do this. Which is a lovely bright white, really bright white. And we're going to put that on the outside of each ear. And then that's that ear, and then one outside, that one. And you just literally use your fingers to shape a pointy sort of little leaf shape like that. Pinch the top and the bottom, and then we're going to attach them to the top of the head. You want to work out where you want them to go first, so sort of quite high up just above the eye, I don't know if you can see that, and then holding the ear forwards, I'm just going to felt through the back. I'm just going to felt that down. So I'm felting through the front now as well, just to get the right position. So attaching the ears is definitely the trickiest bit of the fawn. Again, we're just going to felt through the back of the head, the back of the ear rather, onto the back of the head, until the fibres all disappear into the head. Like so, and then we're going to felt a little bit around the front. Just tuck the bottom of the ear in, like so. And we're just going to felt it over the join at the back of the ear, just slightly onto the head. Then I'm going to take some of the dark brown wool, and it just adds a nice bit of detail just to go just over the head and down, just down this section. I'm just going to needle felt that on in between the ears, and it just, again, it covers over any of the joins. If you look at your deer from the top when you're positioning the ears, and from the sides and from the front, it just helps look at it all angles, and it helps to get the ears in a similar position on each side. We're going to make the tail next, so we're going to use some of the creamy white carded wool, and the similar way that we did the thigh, we're just going to roll it up and needle felt it all over a few times. Use your fingers to get a point one end, and again you can use a stencil sheet as a guide for the tail size. And we're literally just going to position it on the back of your fawn and felt it straight on using your thick needle, and take some of the light golden brown and we're just going to felt that over up onto the back, and that's just going to hold the tail in place like so. And I'm actually going to use some of the same dark brown that we used for the detail on the top of the head. Just going to use that over the tail. So the next thing to do is to position your fawn where you want him. So because we've been felting his head and neck sort of in this position, we've got to try and force the neck around so that it rests onto the leg. So to do that, you're going to have to be quite forceful. Pinch the neck like so. Take your thick needle and felt the wool into shape all the way around. Again, bearing in mind you've got your pipe cleaner in there, and there you go, and he stays like so. We want the ears to go back like that. And the last thing we need to do is just make and attach the little white spots. So take the bright white wool from your kit and just roll little tiny pieces in between your fingers to create these little splodges. And then we're definitely going to want to use your fine needle now, otherwise I'll show you what happens, otherwise it just goes straight in to the, and you won't see them. So you want to use your fine needle and just attach them to the top of the fur. One at a time. And going down the neck, you want to sort of do 2 lines going down the neck, so I'm just going to do that. So you can add as many or as few spots as you want. So just applying the last of the spots now. So I've covered the whole of the back, and I think we're pretty much done. So when you're felting, sometimes I do like an hour in the morning if I've got a busy day. You haven't got to finish something all in one go. Sometimes I like to come back to a piece and finish it off, you know, look at it with fresh eyes later on in the day or in the evening. And one there, and I think the last thing to do is to take a sharp pair of scissors and just trim off any excess fluff or stray hairs that are sticking out. So there you go, little fawns all finished. I really hope you enjoyed this video demonstration. Be sure to check back to the wishing shed, like and subscribe. I've got lots more videos coming up.